that he suffered in judicial custody, in police custody, I must add. So the question is, why should, in this day and age, in the 21st century, the police not be held to the same standard that the enforcers of the law, the rule enforcers, who the cops are, they hold all of society to? Why should they not be held to the same standard? There are numerous Supreme Court verdicts that have come out against such torture, against such extrajudicial custodial killing, as it were. The question then is, will the Tamil Nadu government listen? Yes, they've acted against these 5 errant police personnel. They've been arrested, they've been suspended from duty, and now the latest is, and this has happened just in the last few minutes, that the state has decided to give the matter to the CBI. But will there be actual accountability? Will these people be put in jail, convicted and sentenced, so that it becomes an example for other cops not to follow? Now, such was the extent of the barbarism that was unleashed on Ajith Kumar. He suffered brain hemorrhage. That's because there was a fatal head injury that was caused by the blunt force trauma. You can see he was beaten up with sticks from that footage that we showed a moment ago. There was blunt force trauma on his head, and it led to brain hemorrhage. There were over 30 contusions across his body, on his head, on his chest, in his limbs. There were multiple injuries consistent with physical abuse during custody, and some acute injuries to his vital organs, which only could have been caused because of assault, because you can't have injuries to your vital organs deep inside your body just because you slipped and fell. Now, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin has spoken with the family of the temple guard, Ajith Kumar. He has assured all assistance, and just in the last few minutes, the state government has also decided to hand over this matter to the CBI. The state government is saying that they will wholeheartedly cooperate with the central agency in this matter and want to get justice for Ajith Kumar and his family. Let's listen.
Sir, Naveen பேசுறேன் சார்.
வணக்கம் தம்பி.
வணக்கம்.
நடக்கூடாது நடந்துச்சு, தைரியமா இருங்க. நான் ஆக்சிடென்ட் சொல்லியிருக்கேன், என்ன ஹெல்ப் பண்ண சொல்றேன் அமைச்சர்கிட்ட சொல்லி எடுத்துட்டு இருக்கேன். தைரியமா இருங்க.
இல்லைங்க சார், விசாரணைக்கு கூட்டு போயிட்டு இந்த மாதிரிலாம்
அதான் நடந்துச்சு. உடனே ஆக்ஷன் எடுத்துருக்கோம்.
சரிங்க சார்.
அரெஸ்ட் பண்ணியாச்சு எல்லாரையும்.
சரிங்க சார்.
நீங்க தைரியமா இருங்க. உங்களுக்கு என்ன பண்ணணுமோ எப்படி சொல்றேன்.
இல்லைங்க சார், பையன் வயசு வந்து 29 வயசுங்க சார். எங்க அம்மா வந்து எங்க அப்பா வந்து சின்ன வயசுல இறந்துட்டாங்க. நான் வந்து லூக்கன்ற ஒரு பிரைவேட் கம்பெனியில் ஒர்க் பண்றேன் சார். ரொம்ப கஷ்டப்பட்டு வளர்த்த பிள்ளை சார் அவன். ரொம்ப எங்க அம்மா சொல்லுங்க.
யாருமே ஏத்துக்க முடியாது, ஒத்துக்க முடியாது. அதுக்கு என்ன தண்டனை வாங்கி கொடுத்துருவேன். தைரியமா இருங்க.
சரிங்க சார்.
Meanwhile, the courts have also weighed in, pulling up the Tamil Nadu police. The Madras High Court has asked if Ajith Kumar was a terrorist to deserve the kind of treatment that was meted out to him by the police. The Madras High Court also further questioned as to why the inquiry was held inside the police station in the first place, and if there were any CCTV cameras inside the police station. The Madras High Court has also asked, what is the question that is in everyone's mind, which is, why was such brutality unleashed, and that too in a theft case? As the court said, he's not some kind of terrorist. He's not some criminal mastermind that he has to get this kind of treatment. Why was he subject to this kind of third-degree torture?
If at all Mr. Stalin can recollect what he has said 5 years back, he should have resigned by this time. After this incident has happened, this is the 24th incident, 24th lockup death in the last 4 years. This is shameful. This government should have gone by this time.
They somehow are there. They are crazy without power. And the BJP wants to enter into Tamil Nadu. The problem is that 6 police officers were not transferred, they were suspended. Which means the police have taken action.
All right, I want to go across for a quick face-off on this. Vinod P. Selvam is leader of the Tamil Nadu BJP, A. Saravanan, spokesperson of the DMK. Saravanan, you're a lawyer. I'm sure you have fought cases of such a nature where, people who are accused persons are treated to this kind of third-degree torture. I mean, on your conscience, can you condone something like this? I mean, is this acceptable in a civilized society, in a progressive state like Tamil Nadu?
Zaka, nobody can accept this. In a civilized society, the civilization is judged by how you treat your criminals. So in that sense, definitely this is a blot on the way they have conducted. Like any force, any department, there are black sheep, there are rotten apples who spoil the image and name their predecessors, their colleagues have fought to get. So in that vein, definitely this has to be condemned and has been condemned. And strictest action possible will be taken, the stringent punishment. I think now the CBI is going to investigate this, and definitely all the culprits will be booked.
So, Saran, can I ask you one question?
Yes.
Had this footage, now it's caught on camera, everybody can see, had this footage not come, I believe it's been captured by some mobile phone by some person there. Had this footage not come, the police would have got away with their initial FIR, which is that Ajith Kumar slipped and fell.
See, Zaka, I don't think investigation goes by what's there in the FIR. Investigation goes by what is there in the postmortem report. Investigation goes by what the eyewitness account says and all other things, not just what is there in the FIR, irrespective of this.
No, but why did they say slipped and fell? The attempt was to cover up, right? That's why they said slipped and fell.
Yes, Zaka, the initial attempt was to cover up because it is within the same jurisdiction and the same cops. That is why the cops were arrested, the DSP has been put suspended, and the SP has been put on compulsory wait.
No, which is what I'm saying. Had it not, see, even when he died, it was known, and let me get Vinod into this conversation. The autopsy report reveals brain hemorrhage, 30 contusions across his body, signs of torture, blunt force trauma, and acute injuries to his vital organs. None of this is going to happen if you just slip and fall, which is what the first FIR said. So clearly the attempt, Mr. Selvam, was the police want to hush this up. And maybe Saravanan is right, it's the same cops. The cops will always protect the cops. That's what happened initially. It's because of this footage that came out that they had no choice, but they had to, take corrective action.
It is not the first time that a custodial death has happened in Tamil Nadu under the DMK's watch. 24 deaths is not a small number.
No,
and
that's
the
wrong.
Police don't seem
there
to have
are
learned
not
from the
24
mistakes
deaths.
One second, let him finish. I'll come back to you, Saravanan. Let him finish. Come on, please. Yeah.
See, whatever statistics Mr. Saravanan is going to come and hold and say it didn't happen is not going to work because the High Court themselves have observed. In fact, there has been a question asked to the Chief Minister if he is willing to publish a white paper on the number of custodial deaths which have happened after DMK came to power. In 2020, when a similar episode happened in Sathankulam, the DMK and its alliance and this film fraternity whom they have a great control over, all of them took to the streets, and it was a very emotive issue in the state, and it's a very condemnable issue, and that is one of the reasons why even this government collapsed in 2021. Now the same episode has happened in Tirupavaram. The kind of brutality which has been shown on Ajith Kumar is completely horrendous. It's a heinous crime, and in fact the High Court has come down very heavily. Mr. Saravanan is a lawyer himself, so he should be knowing better. The High Court has in fact called this a murder of a citizen by the state itself, and it's very disheartening to see what has happened. And as you rightly said, if this video has not come out, this would have been declared as a case of fits. That's what the police FIR reads, that this person had fits and he died because of that. But the postmortem report says otherwise. 42 injuries on his body. There is not one organ which has not been damaged by the brutality. And what is very interesting to note is that in Tamil Nadu, the Tamil Nadu police have never ever formed a special team to nab an individual who's not a history sheeter, who does not have a criminal record, for the mere case of a theft of a single chain. It has not happened before. It is not like there are no thefts happening in Tamil Nadu. Robbery is a part of our everyday life in Tamil Nadu. It's been happening everywhere. Murders happening everywhere. Rapes happening everywhere. But a special team was formed to nab this individual.
Okay.
And under whose instruction this happened?
So that's something that the court has also asked. Saravanan, in a petty theft case, petty or serious theft, whatever it is, it's a theft case. The court has asked, why was he treated like he was a terrorist? Now, clearly, either the cops were acting under the influence of some powerful person whose chain or valuables may have been stolen, or there was something else at play here. Clearly the reason is, for somebody who's accused of this kind of a petty crime to be meted this kind of treatment, third degree torture in police custody, surely something else is at play here, Saravanan. So that's what people want to know.
Let's not make wild insinuations that this could have happened, that could have happened. the origin of this theft is because the way the police reacted is because of, they say it's a viral social media claim that of a woman that her jewels were lost. So this became a sensation.
No, but you think for a theft case,
that's what
this
Zaka,
kind of,
Zaka,
this is how the police should...
Yes, Zaka, absolutely there is no justification for the way the police had acted. You asked me a question, why so much of interest? This interest is because of this social media post. And another important aspect is, whoever it is, howsoever high they may be, whoever is behind this, somebody else are behind this, all of them will be booked. Tamil Nadu government, the DMK government will spare no effort. There may be allegations if the state police investigates that no, they want to shield somebody, they want to ensure that the investigation does not go in a far way. The chief minister says, let it go to CBI. Absolutely no problem. Whoever it is, howsoever high may be, whichever party they belong to, howsoever rich they may be, let them all come out. Let them all be treated. Let them all get the stringent punishment if they are involved. So, see,
but by the way, it's also the same CBI that you accuse of being, a caged parrot and acting at the behest of the central government and so on.
That's true, Zaka, that's true. Let me finish this. See, they allege that 24 custodial deaths have happened since the DMK government has taken power. That is false. There are only 4 custodial deaths since DMK has come to power, and all the cops have been arrested. So they were talking about...
One second, this 24... One second. This 24 custodial deaths was a figure cited in a writ petition that was filed in the Madras High Court since 2022, that in the last 4 years, there have been 24 custodial deaths. This was filed in a writ petition in the Madras High Court. And the court has not rejected it, by the way. The court has not said that these numbers are wrong.
That's why I'm coming to that, Zaka. See, custodial death also includes people who die in prisons, maybe to health reasons or any other reasons. They are all termed as custodial deaths, wherever murder has taken place. So, investigation has taken place and it has been proved, post-mortem reports, doctor report, everything has conclusively proved that they have died due to their illness or some health complications. So, that does not have come under the purview of something what has happened in Tribhuvanam or in Sathangulam. And let me make this very, very clear that in case of Sathangulam, there was so much of uproar because the government decided to protect the culprits. The chief minister went on record and said...
One second. Let me ask Vinod, this figure that you're disputing, about 24 custodial deaths, at least, it's the deaths case. That's what people are, appalled about. But if you look at just torture, broken limbs, etc., Vinod, 2024, again, basis an RTI. The RTI reply revealed that 300 people in the Pural prison in Chennai, which is one of the biggest prisons in the state, 300 people had broken limbs. Tamil Nadu police have resorted to 21 encounter killings since 2021. This is as per an RTI, by the way. So much so that the High Court, the Madras High Court, pulled up the Tamil Nadu police for, quote, disregarding constitutional rights by staging these encounters. These are not my words. These are not words from opposition parties in Tamil Nadu. Words of the High Court of Madras, Mr. Selvam.
So, the 24 deaths, I can even name them with the deceased person's name, starting from Namakkal Sub-Jail to the Secretariat, Housing Board, Police Station. There have been several episodes, incidents where individuals have been murdered in custody. That's what I should actually call it. Custodial deaths is too, it's not harsh enough for what has been happening. Now, just these namesake arrests and transfers is not going to be doing any good, because we need to try to understand what has happened to various police officers who were accused of, custodial deaths in the past. All of them are back and they are working again, maybe in different police stations, having the same attitude. Just like how he said, the police save the police. But that's not enough. That's not how justice gets served. I, in fact, want to go one step ahead and talk about the person who should actually be taking responsibility for this heinous crime is the minister who's responsible for the police department. And in this particular case, the minister happens to be the chief minister himself. The chief minister holds the portfolio for the police. And if 24 deaths have happened under his watch in his department, using his conscience, he should actually be the one stepping forward and resigning at this point. Saying sorry to the family is not going to be
Zaka,
enough.
can I come in,
A
sir?
sorry
Okay.
is not going to
10
bring the
seconds.
life
Very,
back.
very quickly,
A
10 seconds I have to.
individual,
Yeah,
a
10 seconds.
29-year-old
If the
individual has
same
lost
logic
his
is
life
applied,
today.
yeah, Zaka, if the same logic is applied, Modi ji should resign 1,000 times. Amit Shah should resign 10,000 times. Will they do that? Will they preach? Will they follow what
Okay.
they preach?
If you're
Anyway,
What kind of
we'll
logic
leave it
is
at
that?
that. We'll leave it at that. Let's move on to the other stories that we're tracking, but we'll leave it at that between the DMK and the BJP. This has become a huge story in the state of Tamil Nadu, and we'll be on the back of it, tracking whether the people who were responsible for the death of Ajith Kumar are brought to justice. Meanwhile, in neighboring Telangana, a day after a massive blast reduced a chemical factory in the state literally to ashes, and this is barely an hour and a half away from Hyderabad, the death toll has now gone up to 36. Operations are continuing with the police and the fire department officials retrieving several bodies from the rubble. In fact, we're given to understand at least 3 to 4 more bodies are in such a state where they can't be identified, and therefore they've not revealed the true extent of the death toll. Right now, it is at 36, but could likely go up even further. This blast happened at a chemicals factory. It's called the Sigachi Chemicals Factory. This is in Sangareddy district. It has raised many questions over the lapses, the lack of regulatory mechanisms. Since this accident happened over the last 24 plus hours, no one there has seen the owners. The FIR that has been registered does not mention anything about the owners of the factory or the managers of the factory or the people who are responsible for these lapses. And the police don't seem to be in any hurry to make any arrests in this case. Telangana Chief Minister Revanth Reddy today visited the site. He sought a detailed report on the accident. He also instructed officials to conduct inspections in all chemical companies in the state. A high-level 5-member committee has been formed to review and probe the mishap. But the critical question that needs to be asked is, even if this was negligence, even if this was an accident, somebody needs to be held to account for these 36 deaths. Who is that person?
Inquiry is going on. I wanted to find out all the details. Then only I can comment anything. Otherwise, if I comment something, it will take another turn. Definitely, we will see whatever concerns are there, whatever lapses are there, whatever regulation has to be implemented. We will examine everything. We will take a serious view on those incidents. Same time, I have told my people 1 crore rupees for death families, 10 lakhs rupees major that accident and limited whatever injuries are there for them also 5 lakh rupees, and medical thing government will take care everything.
Well, the chemical factory was involved with the production of microcrystalline cellulose. It's a purified, partially depolymerized cellulose that's derived from fibrous plant material. Oftentimes it's derived from wood pulp. Now, explaining the probable cause of this blast, a fire official said that pressure seemed to have built up when the workers were operating the spray dryer. Now, investigators are also probing the reactor spray dryer blast, which is likely from a chemical reaction or the ignition of chemical dust particles. Fine dust chemical particles could have accelerated the blast and the subsequent fire that eventually happened. But the question that still begs to be asked is, why do we see such industrial accidents in India in the first place? Here are some factors that could be at play. There are redundant regulations, including 15 acts and 19 rules. There is a lack of unified approach for the chemical industry. There's a degree of fragmentation that leads to overlapping jurisdictions between various government departments, and that leads to loopholes in the enforcement of these various rules and laws. It weakens oversight and it weakens the enforcement of these safety measures. The lack of a central database on industrial chemicals and their risks also creates a knowledge gap, and that hinders hazard assessment, safety protocols. Boiler operations often fall under untrained contractual workers who lack proper safety and emergency response training, as has been highlighted by a study by IIT Kanpur. And this often leads to confusion during accidents. It increases risks, particularly with hazardous chemicals. Also, there are industries that try to cut corners, owners of companies and factories that try to cut corners. Cost cutting by some industries often neglects safety equipment and infrastructure, whether it's proper ventilation and whether it is proper fire safety. There's also lax implementation, insufficient inspectors, corruption, low safety awareness in what is clearly an informal sector.
This is the place where exactly the explosion was happened. Almost 36 people died in this incident and several people injured, almost 45 people getting their treatment in the different hospitals. And the Chief Minister, just now Chief Minister visited this place and assured for the complete complete compensation for them. The government Chief Minister announced that they will pay 1 crore rupees of ex gratia to the people who died in this incident with the help of company. They wanted to talk to the companies and accordingly they wanted to provide 1 crore ex gratia to the people who died in this incident. And moreover, the government also announced, the Chief Minister also announced that they will pay 10 lakh rupees for the people who seriously injured and they are unable to work in the further, and they wanted to give 5 lakh rupees to the people who injured normally, who is got the normal injuries and they can come for the work later on getting the treatment. So now we can see here with the complete picture that the blast was happened right here. This is the broiler where that complete blast was happened. Here the entire process will come over there. The powder will come in the liquid format, and this broiler will make that chemical into the powder. It is almost 700 to 800 degree temperature. It will be processed in 700 to 800 degree temperature. Generally, it will be cooled, like it will be treated every time. But unfortunately, I think the primary estimation of the government is that the authorities is that it has happened because of proper for not maintaining properly. It's a human error itself.
Meanwhile, actor Shefali Zariwala's sudden death because of cardiac arrest has raised concerns over young and fit people falling prey to heart ailment. In the backdrop of that, one district in Karnataka has seen an alarming surge in heart attack cases. Adults who are as young as 22 years old have died of a heart attack in Hassan district in the state. The health department has instructed the health department officials to conduct a thorough study and find the scientific basis for why there is such a sudden spike. Now take a look at some of these numbers. 3 more lives were tragically lost to cardiac arrest today. 3 in one district in just one single day. So what that does is it brings the total number of deaths in that one district to 23 deaths just in the last 40 days, all of young people under the age of 40-45, because of heart attacks in that one district of Hassan. Now what's particularly concerning is that the age demographics of these victims, if you look at the breakup of the age factor amongst these victims, 6 of these folks out of the 23, 6 of them were between the age of 19 and 25. 19 and 25, that's not the age that you should be getting a cardiac arrest. 9 of them were in the age group between 25 and 45. So a majority, which is 15 out of 23, were people who are considered young, who are considered to be under the age of 45. The remaining 4 were between 45 and 58 years old. The fact that a majority of these deceased were below the age of 45 has left a lot of people in that district, particularly their near and dear ones, in deep shock. In fact, Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah has said that the health department panel that will be looking into it will also probe the reasons for these sudden deaths, particularly the deaths amongst young people. Now, we've heard this sort of familiar argument that's been put forth, which again, politically, the Chief Minister and other officials in Karnataka are also citing possibly the side effects of the COVID vaccine, if any. Now, there are 2 problems with that. Number one, there is no scientific medical evidence to show that there is a connection between taking the COVID vaccine and increased heart attacks. And number 2, people took the COVID vaccine almost 5 years ago or 4 years ago. Why is it acting up now, for a full 4 years later, in seemingly young people?
Full-fledged politics has started over the heart attack deaths in Hassan. While the BJP said that the government was not doing enough over this issue, the Chief Minister has hit back now, saying that the COVID vaccines and the hurried approval to them could be the reason. He said that global studies are indicating that COVID vaccines could be one of the causes for sudden heart attack deaths in several youngsters. Interestingly now, a probe has been ordered, and this probe will be carried out by a committee which was formed a few months back to look into sudden deaths that were occurring and whether the COVID vaccine was a reason for it. The same committee will look at heart attack deaths in Hassan. Well, even as politics plays out over this issue, the entire aspect of newer cases coming in every day of people dying in their early 20s and 30s because of heart attack, especially in Hassan, is causing a huge concern. This committee will now look into individual cases, especially people who are in their early 20s, 30s, or 40s who died because of heart attack in Hassan, and look at the underlying health condition, if any, was present, and their medical records. But the fact that this committee has been just given 10 days to look into all these details, many are asking if that's enough to look into data of more than 20 people, their health records, and what is the kind of treatment that was given to them.
Just getting some breaking news. Dr. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister, is in the United States for the Quad Foreign Ministers meeting. In his opening remarks, the External Affairs Minister spoke about the need for zero tolerance on terror. Remember, this is the first big Quad meeting after the Pahalgam attack and Operation Sindoor. Also reminding some of his Quad counterparts, the United States, Australia and Japan, that terror victims and perpetrators cannot be equated, as was the attempt, certainly after Operation Sindoor, by the Pakistan state and particularly its army chief to try and equate and rehyphenate India and Pakistan. But that narrative has been busted by the External Affairs Minister, that you cannot have the perpetrator of terror and the victims of terror being seen on an even keel. So that meeting, the Quad meeting, is underway right now in Washington, D.C. It's been presided over by the U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, attended by the foreign ministers of India, Australia and Japan. But the bigger story that is going to develop over the next few days is on the India-United States trade deal. Whether it will be a full-fledged trade deal, a limited trade deal, or whether one will happen at all. India's trade team has extended its stay in Washington to try and iron out differences as both sides look to clinch a deal before the 9th of July deadline. Remember, Trump had imposed the 26% tariffs on India, 10% base and 16% reciprocal tariffs on the 2nd of April. And then after about a week or so, he put those on hold for 3 months. That deadline ends July 9th, which is next week. That's when the tariffs are all set to kick in. Sources have told CNBC TV 18, our sister channel, that the talks between India and the United States continue to face a stalemate over certain sensitive sectors, sensitive items when it comes to agriculture, agricultural products, and dairy products. India's negotiating team has extended their stay. Talks have now entered a critical phase. They're pushing hard for a competitive edge for labor-intensive sectors like textile, leather, footwear, etc., in this limited trade deal that they're hoping to clinch with the United States before that deadline that is looming over not just India but all other countries that do trade with the United States, which is the 9th of July. In the midst of this, the White House press secretary has said that Trump will make an announcement regarding India in the next few days.
India-US trade negotiations have entered the final lap before the 9th of July deadline. Officials have made it clear that there will be no concessions on agriculture and dairy, as these are red lines in the trade talks, and India has kept them out with other nations too in trade deals, including with the UK and in talks with the European Union. Sources also say that both sides are yet to come to an agreement on average tariffs. While US wants to impose 10% baseline tariffs as an average tariff rate on India, India wants zero duty access or at least preferential treatment compared to Vietnam, Indonesia, Bangladesh. Also, India wants an exemption from 25% US tariff on steel imports, but this is unlikely to happen. For the moment, the biggest issue is around agriculture and dairy, with Indian officials conveying that they may have to walk out if US persists with the demand that India should open up its agriculture and dairy sectors for US goods. But there is still hope that a deal may happen in the next 2 to 3 days, with the White House saying that President Trump and his team are working on trade deals with several countries and they will announce an update on India very soon.
And talking about President Trump, what happened to be once upon a time a solid friendship has turned so bitter now between US President Donald Trump and the founder of Tesla and the one-time head of Doge, Elon Musk. So much so, now President Trump is threatening to deport his billionaire friend Elon Musk back to South Africa, the country of his origin, the country where he was born. In fact, in recent days, after a period of uneasy truce, Musk was the one who first fired salvos over Trump and the big, beautiful bill that Trump and the Republicans are hoping to pass through the Senate. Musk has criticized the bill over trillions of dollars that it would add to the fiscal deficit. Somewhere close to $4 trillion is the claim made by Musk and his supporters. Musk has said that he would launch a new political party and oust all those Republican lawmakers who were supporting the bill, who said one thing in the campaign and who are now supporting this bill. Irked beyond measure, Trump has said that Elon Musk could lose a lot more than EV mandate, hinting that he could even look at taking away Elon's American citizenship and deporting him back to South Africa.
In a week already thick with fireworks, a different kind of explosion is lighting up Washington. And it's again between two of America's most powerful egos, Donald Trump and Elon Musk. One is the president, pushing a legacy-defining spending bill. The other is the world's richest man, calling it a debt slavery bomb. And now, the billionaire who helped support Trump's re-election says he's ready to destroy the GOP from within. At the center of the feud, Trump's so-called One Big Beautiful Bill, a massive tax and spending package worth over $5 trillion. It aims to extend his first-term tax cuts, boost military and border spending, and fund large-scale deportations. But it also slashes welfare, healthcare, and clean energy subsidies. The Congressional Budget Office says it could spike the US deficit by nearly $3.3 trillion over the next decade. Elon Musk, once Trump's top advisor and head of the Federal Department of Government Efficiency, is now calling the bill and the lawmakers backing it a betrayal of every fiscal conservative in America. He's accused Republicans of selling out to debt and waste. His words are, "We live in a one-party country, the Porky Pig Party." On X, Musk wrote, "Every member of Congress who campaigned on cutting spending and then voted for the biggest debt increase in history should hang their head in shame." And now the Tesla and SpaceX CEO says if the bill is passed, he'll launch a new political force, the America Party. He says the US needs an alternative to the Democrat-Republican Uniparty and promises to fund challengers to every Republican who supported the bill. He's already spent close to $300 million in campaign donations and says he's just getting started. Musk said that they would lose their primary next year, even if it's the last thing he does on Earth. Trump once called Musk a brilliant guy. Musk credited himself with helping Trump win the 2024 election. But things turned ugly. After Musk's online tirade, Trump hit back with a threat of his own on Truth Social. Elon may get more subsidy than any human in history. Without subsidies, he'd have to shut down and head back to South Africa. He even hinted that Doge, ironically, the efficiency unit Musk once led, should investigate Tesla and SpaceX. Trump's anger isn't just talk. He's now threatening to cancel federal contracts and subsidies that fund Musk's companies, from NASA launches to EV credits. "No more rocket launches, no more satellites, no more electric cars," Trump posted. "We'd save a fortune." The market noticed. Tesla shares dipped $150 billion in value amid the chaos, though they later recovered. Is Musk serious about a third party? Musk says he is. But is the US buying it? Polls show nearly 80% of ex-users support the idea of an America Party. But national surveys tell a different story. Only 8% say they'd vote for Musk over Trump. Most independents say neither. And political analysts say building a viable third party in the US is close to impossible. Ballot rules, funding structures, and institutional inertia all work against it. As the Senate rushes to meet Trump's July 4th deadline, the bill is still facing amendments, holdouts, and infighting. If passed, it'll reshape American tax law, defense spending, and social programs for years.
So it's been a month and a half since Operation Sindoor between India and Pakistan. It's the biggest conflict in terms of scale, in terms of depth that we have seen in the context of India-Pakistan in the last 50 years. The last time something like this happened was in 1971. So this month and a half now gives us a sense to really assess what India achieved in those 4 days, in those 88 hours between the morning of the 7th of May and the evening of the 10th of May when the ceasefire was declared. A lot of people have been assessing it, have been analyzing it, have been writing about it, have been talking about it. There is a lot of evidence already in the form of satellite imagery, in the form of video evidence that we've seen that locals have shot in Pakistan. And like I said, a lot of analysis has already been done. But what is the most definitive and authoritative account that we can get of just how much damage India left behind? And the bigger question is, has this now changed the whole paradigm between India and Pakistan? Is this enough of a deterrent now for Pakistan to mend its ways and stop using these terror proxies against innocent Indian civilians? One person who's caught the attention of a lot of people here in India is Mr. John Spencer. He's the chair of the Urban Warfare Studies at Modern War Institute at West Point. Thank you very much, Mr. Spencer. First things first, welcome to India.
Thank you.
What are you doing here?
So I'm learning more about what you just talked about Operation Sindoor, all the way from the April 22nd terrorist attack until the end of it. There's so many lessons there, from the tactical to the strategic. So I'm here to do interviews, and what I do is travel the world into war zones to get those lessons firsthand.
So what is it that intrigued you most about Operation Sindoor?
I mean, really every bit of it, from the strategic change of India's doctrine towards terrorism, that a response would be immediate, the nuclear blackmail won't work anymore, to the individual technologies in the town hall that you just did, like it's doing my research for me, asking those questions about the made in India indigenous systems, to the back and forth, and also the misinformation, which we live in a world of misinformation. Even in the United States, I hear people talking about how many Indian aircraft were knocked down. So this analyzing every bit of what happened, why it happened, what major decisions were made and when, and then what are the lessons that not just India took from them, but what can the rest of the world take from?
So why do you think this was different from any other operation that we've seen in recent times? So much so that you've flown all the way from the States. It's a long flight.
Yeah.
It's a long trek to be making. So what was so intriguing for you? What was the standout for you as far as this operation was concerned?
Well, I'm still looking for it. I mean, of course, two nuclear-armed countries going to war with each other. It's a limited operation, but also, which that leadership of India showed that, like, we were attacked, we're going to respond, very limited. The communication, both publicly and privately, that was happening. So many elements. I mean, I'm an old infantryman. I did 25 years in the military, so there's some little things that I'm looking at army-wise, but the drone, counter-drone fight, the fact that, beyond visual range, technologies that were deployed, so many elements here. I think at that bigger picture, that definitely caught my eye, of having been here on the ground to study the 2008 Mumbai attacks, and how different the response was to that terrorist attack, clearly launched by Pakistan, ISI, LAT, but it was a different world back then.
Yeah.
So
what do you think changed between 2008 and 2025?
Yeah.
In the nature of the response that India delivered to Pakistan?
I think the Indian government is different. The world is different. So it's post-global war on terrorism, when, to be honest, the Pakistan double game of being needed, but also being a part of the terrorists exporting is changed. But the entire world has changed really since then. What we've seen in the Middle East to now, of course, in India, you know better than I do about the change in the government, the shift after 2019 and others towards made in India. That was multiple years of investment that get tested. And I think during the town hall, you really talked about, which I agree, that's another thing that's, of course, caught my eye, is this was a test of Chinese military systems. Who is the biggest peer competitor of the United States. India just went to war with a Chinese proxy, basically, and dominated so India dominated the Chinese equipment. So that's a lot of interest to a lot of people. So that's a part of the study as well.
So when you say India went to war with the Chinese proxy, I asked Air Marshal Dixit, who was there in our town hall, that it was basically the Pakistan army fighting with Chinese weapons. Is the jury still out on the efficacy of these Chinese weapons? Because, for the longest time, Indian war planners and military strategists were talking about this two-front war. Pakistan attacks and China attacks. India has to deal with both fronts. Now it seems more like a fused front. It's Chinese weapons, but Pakistan army is using them. How does that change the nature of how we understand war and how military has to prepare for it?
I mean, the character of warfare, and that came out in the town hall as well, is always changing, right? What new technology, and then you asked about what we call revolutions in military affairs, kind of like manned pilots, drones, all of that aspect. In this, of course, war is the ultimate test, and I deal with the military a lot. There's always ideals about the future of war and what will be most important. For me, all warfare is a combination of the old things you still need and the new technologies enhancing what is known to be what is necessary. The Chinese weaponry aspect of this, again, not tested. The Chinese military hasn't been tested in a very long time, so their tech is being tested, and people are buying it. And then as I go around the world, you see, okay, whose tech is being sold to the world, whether that's air defense systems or fighter pilot jets or even missiles. And those get put to the test. Now I have to objectively roll that back. Okay, where did it perform well? Where did it not? And I do everything unclassified, so there's limits to my research. But clearly, on the full scale, and I think this was being missed about Operation Sindoor, is that India, with all of its equipment and variations from some Israeli, some mostly indigenous Indian, dominated. At least the ability to attack Pakistani sites, the 9 terrorist sites and the 11 military sites, that can't be mixed in the lessons here against the Chinese base on military, basically. So
going back to one of the things that you said, new tech, and we saw evidence of the new tech, drones in particular, during the India-Pakistan conflict, as well as we've been seeing this in the context of Russia-Ukraine for a longer period. But you're not one of those folks who thinks that drones are going to replace fighter jets or fighter pilots.
No, I'm not. I've studied war long enough to know that there are revolutions in military affairs, what we call game changers, like nuclear weapons was a game changer, or the telegraph, the railroad, things like that. I've been watching drones since the first the second Nagorno-Karabakh war between Azerbaijan and Armenia, when Turkish and Israeli drones dominated the battlefield, but you have to go there and see why, because it's just an open bowling ground. So anything can be hit that can be seen. It's a evolution of air power. Of course, it's a cheaper version of it. So you have the aspect, and you have the droning, swarming capabilities, which again, what I'm looking at too is that D4S and other systems were very dominant even against what is working in other parts of the world, which is swarming. Whether it's Shahed version drones or others, if you swarm any advanced system, sometimes you can get breakthroughs. In this case, Pakistan wasn't able to.
What about the human cost? One of the things that governments, especially democracies, have been wary of is putting boots on the ground or sending fighter pilots across the line, because there's a nature of risk involved in it. Drones take that element of risk out because there's no human life being lost. I mean, it's a machine, and you can afford. There's no human cost involved there.
There is definitely, that is the goal, and it's been there in warfare for a long time. I mean, we've been experimenting World War I with basically wired devices, trying not to put soldiers at risk, which you shouldn't. I am also, though, of the mind that some operations, again, this is why explaining to people what the goal was. So even for India in Operation Sindoor, the goal was to reestablish deterrence, establish this new doctrine, not to go all in for something. Even when you see Iran, Israel, it's not a regime change. So, but if you want to do certain things like take ground, you still need soldiers, infantry to seize and hold ground. You can integrate these unmanned systems, and I agree with, like you during the town hall, manned, unmanned teaming is really what we're at. You can help assist in operations, not fully autonomous. Actually, there's even human reservations to fully autonomizing things in war. Like, we're really okay with defensive weapons.
Not so much.
Not so much offensive weapons, that there's no human in the loop Nobody's there yet.
So let me then come to the operative part, and which is that has India now set a new normal for Pakistan-sponsored terrorism? That Pakistan comes in, sends these terror proxies, they attack innocent civilians. Has India imposed a disproportionate level of cost that, if not deterrent value, at least there will be a rethink in the Pakistani establishment of using this terror proxy playbook, which they've been for the last 30, 40 years now?
So it's a good question. Clearly a new doctrine established, and the messaging from the very top to the bottom is very clear. Any terrorist attack will be responded to. It won't be like the other 2008, 2016, 19, nothing. To deter somebody, though, is a big goal when it's institutionalized. And as you've seen Pakistan generals and others making comments, I can't say that somebody's deterred, but there's definitely a new line that's established, and a red line is a red line if it's enforced. There is that deterrence effect, which will factor into thinking, but ultimately you want them to change their behavior of the proxy terrorism. I don't know, I don't think that's there yet, but definitely a signal was sent and received since Pakistan asked for the operation to stop.
So there's also, as you would imagine, a lot of concern here in India about what President Trump has been claiming, that he is the one who mediated, he's the one who got the ceasefire done and so on. Clearly the government of India has rejected that, saying that it was bilaterally arrived at, it was Pakistan that asked for the ceasefire. Why do you think he's saying this and continuing to say this?
I don't do politics, although I do war, enough. Which is politics by other means. Our president communicates very uniquely, says things very unique. Some people love him for it. It's very bold, rapid, quick, communicates directly to the people. I'll leave it to India to say who called for the cessation and not. I don't know.
Because the feeling in India, certainly, I mean, we were all covering the war, and we were actively in our newsrooms, we were in touch with our reporters on the ground, was that India could have gone more, it could have gone further, and there was a degree of concern that India was being restrained by the Trump administration. Is that a concern that you see as if not valid, at least coming from a genuine place?
Absolutely. I mean, I understand the Indian perspective on but there is a sense of reality that during a war, of course, India and the United States are great partners, and that, of course, there is communication, but there's no restraint, there's no mediating, there's nothing there. I mean, that's beyond, and I leave it to the people that were involved to say what happened, what didn't. I know that India's released an exact timeline, which is impactful, but of course, two great partners are communicating. The restraint, no. India showed immense strategic restraint in identifying the limited objective and then communicating that even to Pakistan. Like, look, this is what we did, this is why we did it. And that's a part of my study as well, because that level of constant communication at the highest level, especially the Prime Minister, is so critical in a world we live in where information imagine if we would have had TikTok during the Cuban Missile Crisis. I mean, that level of communication. So I think it is important that India says, like, no, this is exactly what was said. These are the phone calls that were made. That is all important on. I'm not going to go with social media.
There's some folks who are saying, a degree of parity has been now established again between India and Pakistan, at least militarily speaking. The president hosted the field marshal, the now field marshal of the Pakistan Army, for lunch at the White House. Is the American point of view now that India and Pakistan are re-hyphenated?
So again, I don't do politics, but so geopolitics is very complex. The relationships between nations and what they each get out of it. But terrorism shouldn't be complex. We should all object to any amount of, especially exporting of terrorism across borders in a proxy war. That's about the extent of that. I know from many years, from Iraq and Afghanistan, the global war on terrorism, those mill-to-mill relationships, all that, they're complex, but there should be clarity on disavowing terrorism.
But in terms of utility, what Pakistan brings to the American strategic playbook, one could understand, during the 20 years of the war on terror, because you needed depth and you needed some of these, bases to move logistics, move the militaries. there was a certain utility that Pakistan brought to the table, but the war on terror is over now and has been for the last 3 or 4 years. So again, what a lot of people here in India are trying to figure out is what is the strategic value that Pakistan brings to the American strategic table that there seems to be this degree of parity being established between India and Pakistan.
Again, not my area of study. I don't think the war on terrorism is over, although the global war on terrorism campaign, you could say, is over. But the global fight against terrorism, you have ISIS-K and along the Pakistan-Afghanistan border, there's plenty of terrorists around, and I think any mutual cooperation.
No, what I meant was American troops are not there in an active form in Afghanistan anymore.
Although having intelligence capabilities against certain aspects, again, it's complex. Not my area of study. I study kind of named operations and wars like that.
So let's talk about the other operation that happened, which is between Iran and Israel. And again, it's unprecedented what we saw in that 12-day period. First with Rising Lion, and then the United States getting in, bombing those 3 nuclear sites. There's been some concern again. First, it was through American media reports, leaked intelligence reports suggesting that the damage in those sites was not as much as the Trump administration is claiming it is. What is your own assessment? I mean, has Iran's nuclear program been sort of permanently depleted? Has it been pushed back by a few months? What is the real impact of this 12-day war?
Sure. So I definitely don't think anybody even tried to say it was destroyed, depleted, eliminated. The goal that Israel set for the operation was to roll it back, to take it away from an imminent breakout in the terms of nuclear weapons. And I don't think there's anybody in my world of objective analysis that can say, not just those multiple attacks, although the United States did, Operation Midnight Hammer, one attack, but there had already been multiple attacks on those 3 and the 4th site, Isfahan, Natanz, and Fordo, and there's the plutonium enrichment site. Not just that, but as an objective analyst, has the program been rolled back? Of course, those enrichment sites, and the one that got 12, 30,000 pound American bunker busting built for that site, so designed for that site, did immense amounts of damage. But as an analyst to say, was the goal of the war to roll back the system achieved? Well, the 11 high-ranking nuclear scientists that were eliminated, all the missile component sites, all the bits and pieces that you need in a nuclear weaponization program, undoubtedly rolled back.
But pushed back by how far do you reckon? I mean, months, years?
So I don't do classified research. I think it's more than months. I did hear an analyst I trust is saying even if you started from scratch, you could get it done in about 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's assume that that's the case. I mean, I'm not even going by what the IAEA chief, who reportedly has said that it could be a matter of months before Iran starts enriching again. What I'm curious to know is, again, what's changed in the playbook? Because the playbook is the same. I mean, if Iran's going to go back to its bad old ways, then does Israel have to keep doing this every few years?
Yeah, this is what, again, at that higher level, because I do tactical stuff about, the immense amount of dominance that Israel showed on Iran. But what were the strategic goals? One is the ideal that Iran is this big invincible actor in the Middle East. Israel, being a very small nation with very limited capability, just proved that they're highly vulnerable to attack. Israel dominated their skies and could hit what they want when they wanted. But the system was also, the red line was moved. Before it was, we're going to use only diplomatic measures, economic measures to deter. There's a lot of similarities here between these operations. And Israel and the United States says now, look, the old days are over. If you restart this program, not saying we will, but we can, if necessary, use force again if you're continuing to develop it.
Co-presented. This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
And we are getting a piece of breaking news. EM Jaishankar calls out Pakistan in the United Nations. He said that any state-sponsored terrorism must be exposed. He said this at United Nations Anti-Terrorism Exhibition. Jaishankar urges global community to act against terrorism. That is a big statement that is coming in from External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, where he has called out Pakistan at the United Nations. And we are joined by Akansha Saroop on this broadcast. Akansha, that is a strong statement coming in from S. Jaishankar. How do you see this?
Absolutely. Harsh must keep in mind that he's directly taken a jibe, or he's directly indicated Pakistan's role in the Pahalgam terror attack when he said that no impunity should be given to terrorists, no treating them as proxies, no yielding to nuclear blackmail. This is exactly what even the US had hinted at, that there was a massive threat, which is why India had, there was an understanding also that had been made, and any state sponsorship must be exposed and must be countered. So important to highlight that the External Affairs Minister is making that point at the UN Assembly on anti-terrorism and urged the global community to act. He also referred to that resolution which was passed by the UN 5 weeks ago, condemning the terror act in Pahalgam on 22nd of April. So he wants to make a point to the UN, to the larger international community. It's also part of the broader push under Operation Sindoor, soon after our multi-party delegation went visiting across the globe. So important to also highlight that the Pak Army Chief Asim Munir was in the United States. He met Donald Trump, and Saturday at the naval parade, at the passing out parade of the Navy in Pakistan, he's gone on to talk about how what India may treat as terrorism is a legitimate struggle for them. They will continue to back terrorists diplomatically, militarily, in whatever way possible. So Asim Munir again, instigating the sentiments over there and playing the rabble-rouser that he has. So for the External Affairs Minister to make that point is a very significant one. It's also part of his visit where, remember, he's attending that Quad foreign ministerial meet at the behest of the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. And it's also a reminder to the United States that if they regard India as a strategic ally, one that is an integral partner to the United States in the Quad grouping, then they will also have to address concerns of India when it comes to terrorism, because remember, India is going to be playing the Quad chair this year.
Right. Akansha, I would request you to stay on with us as we are getting another piece of breaking news. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt on Monday confirmed that the United States and India are close to finalizing a trade agreement. Her comments came shortly after Trump voiced optimism about finalizing the trade pact with India. And we'll listen in to the White House Press Secretary's bite.
Yes, the president said that last week, and it remains true. I actually just spoke to our Secretary of Commerce about it. He was in the Oval Office with the president. They are finalizing these agreements, and you'll hear from the president and his team, his trade team, very soon when it comes to India.
And we have Akansha on this broadcast. Akansha, does this mean a trade deal is right around the corner between US and India?
Absolutely. And when they are saying that India is a strategic ally and that Donald Trump and Prime Minister Modi share a good relationship, that Caroline Leavitt has also highlighted how she's been in touch with their Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, and he was in the Oval Office with the President finalizing agreements, is only an indication that perhaps they are in, at that point of finalizing the deal. Not to forget the fact, Harsh, most importantly, that Indian officials have also extended their...
Viewers, pay attention. Tonight is a big story, an exclusive story. A CNN News 18 Hard Facts exclusive. The woke ecosystem will